Peter's probably in shock. He knows it's curtains for him.
Whatever you focus on increases. So instead of me focusing on the thing that I need the miracle in, I want to focus on the miracle worker.
The good news is that no situation is beyond God's reach.
And I love that there's a testimony that comes out of every great thing God does in our life. Hey there, Crossroads. We are back for week 12, chapter 12 of Acts Chats. And we're diving in, keeping on going deeper. Had a great episode with Epi last week. If you missed it, go back. Pastor Rich was here. He's back again this week. And so is Pastor John Eastlick from our Morrison campus. Super cool stuff. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to stop the interview. Too much of the Holy Spirit. Right there on one couch. So,
That's great.
You know, we have great conversations. Today is a unique one. I didn't share this before, but you know, Peter and Paul both are in prison, and this coming February, I'm actually going to go to that prison in Rome.
Ooh. Wow,
and
cool.
So this story I'm super excited about Peter's escape from the jail and that kind of thing. To be able to see that prison and to see what was going on there, super cool. I'm excited about that.
You know what amazes me?
What's that?
About that is how much work those guys got accomplished while they were in prison.
Yeah.
Just the writing and how the gospel never stopped.
Yeah.
Like
true.
even though they were in prison, it's like you can't hold back the gospel.
Yeah, didn't Paul write pretty much most of the New Testament while he was in prison?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Maybe he wouldn't have wrote. He might have been too busy getting beat up and chased around if he hadn't got arrested.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. You know, I think sometimes not the direction we think we're going. I mean, how many believers go, hey, you know what sounds like should be on the menu for next week? Jail and worms. Which says this story right here. But, you know, so often God takes us to places that are unexpected. And here we have Peter in the great escape from prison, chapter 12, verses 6 through 19. And we're going to talk a little bit about that God can be our renewed deliverance. Before we dive into that, John, we're just going to get it out of the way because you have a favorite part of this story.
I mean, I just always love every time I see this story, because we're so like this to this day, that when they get arrested, the whole church is praying. Everybody's like, oh, we got to pray, brother. We got to, sister, we got to pray. They just arrested Peter. Can you just see them all? Oh, they're all talking about it. They're all praying. They have an all-night prayer meeting. And then when God answers their prayer, nobody believes it. Because Peter thinks he's dreaming.
Yeah.
Thinks he's having a vision because he can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then when he shows up, the girl sees him and runs without letting him in and tells everybody, he's here. God answered our prayer. And they said, they think it's a ghost.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah, a lot of unbelief. Verse 11 you mentioned there. Peter finally came to his senses. I love that. Came to his senses. I think sometimes we need to come to our senses in life.
Yeah, after he walked out and went all down, he thinks, oh, this is a dream. This is weird.
Yeah, it's really true. He said, the Lord has sent his angel to save me from Herod. It's pretty cool. I love that the angel's instructions are so practical. Get dressed. Put on your sandals. Now put on your coat and follow me, the angel ordered. And that's like verse 8. It's kind of like sometimes we lose our way. And God has to come in his divine nature and be like, come on, you know how to do this. Just walk out with me.
And he had guards guarding him in the prison. I mean, it was in a jail, and extra guards.
Yeah, and I think one thing that stands out to me, too, is when the angel says, you know, quick, get up. And then the chains fell off of his wrists.
Yeah.
And I think so often we are in this, we're always trying to fight to get things off or to get free. And the angel just comes and does it all.
That's so good, isn't it?
Nobody has to unlock it. They just fell off.
He wasn't figuring out how somebody's going to sneak him a key or whatever.
Yeah,
and he just had to get up.
And that's, you know, I'm gonna bring grace in because I do, because
that's good.
That's what grace is. Grace is just saying, no, it's all been taken off you.
Yeah.
And I put it on me.
Yeah.
So don't put it back on.
Yeah. Well, and how many
It's boom.
believers are living in imaginary shackles
Mm-hmm.
that God has delivered them? Maybe it's of an addiction, maybe it's of sin, and they keep that identity not as a child of God, not as a son or daughter of God, but of their bondage, and that becomes their identity while God has already delivered them from that situation.
You know, you saying that, so even this speaks to that even so much more, because the chains fall off, an angel's leading him out of there, and he still hasn't come to his senses yet. What God's doing for him, he still thinks he's dreaming or he's in a vision, because I mean, come on, let's be real. This just doesn't happen.
Right.
When are you in a prison and the guards don't even notice, and your stuff just falls, chains fall off, the doors open, out you walk? How could that be real? And you're right. God is so good. Sometimes we just can't believe it.
You know, for you, Rich, when you've worked with hundreds of believers, if not thousands of believers, I think sometimes God uses us as pastors to be those messengers to people. Of course, there's the messages on a Sunday morning or Saturday night or a midweek service, if you have a midweek service. But for you, when you think of giving those instructions to be like, hey, your salvation has arrived, hey, your deliverance is here, there's a choice that those people still have to make. So for you, when you talk to those people, when you experience those people who are being released to their bondage and they're still in unbelief, how do you help them begin to make that place of coming to their senses, if you will, of saying, oh, I can believe this. I can believe that the goodness of God would rescue me. I could believe that the freedom's there. I can believe the deliverance is coming.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's hard to convince people of anything sometimes, right? But I think as messengers, as you well put it, as messengers of the gospel, right? The gospel is the power. I am not ashamed of the gospel
We're not the power
of salvation, because it is the power under salvation. And I think messengers, and I'm praying this for my own life, I'm praying this for all my pastors, that we understand spiritual authority in a greater way. That angel came in there, and he was the highest authority. No Roman law or guards or anything were going to stop him. So I believe that when we as the messengers have the power of the gospel, we should operate in the authority of knowing that people are going to be free, their chains are going to come off, their clothes are going to be available, and they're going to walk out free.
Yeah.
They're going to walk out the rest of their life free from those things that were shackling them.
And I love that, that's a revelation for us as pastors, but it's a revelation for every believer, because each of us are called to be ambassadors of the gospel of Christ. And that is alive and true, whether you're standing on a stage, whether you're in a one-on-one meeting, or whether you're just over at your neighbor's house talking to him. We did the Art of Neighboring last fall.
Yes.
And just that availability to be that ambassador of Christ, of the gospel to others. And I love that so often there's a win for us as pastors. There's a win for each believer. There's a place, but I love that here Peter comes. He comes knocking at a door. Verse 12, I love it. When he realized this, he went to the home of Mary, the mother of John Mark, where many were gathered in prayer. He knocked at the door in the gate, and the servant girl named Rhoda, which I love it. I mean, name drop there for her, came to open it. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was overjoyed and instantly opened the door. Or instead of opening the door, she ran back inside and told everyone Peter is standing at the door. I love that the miraculous lead to a testimony. And of course, Peter gives a testimony of like God's deliverance here. But here's this little girl who has secondhand experienced the miraculous. And she goes to give that testimony. It wasn't for her glory. It wasn't for Peter's glory, but it was for the glory of God, of what God had done. Yeah. And I love that there's a testimony that comes out of every great thing God does in our life. You know, John, I think back to there's some hard seasons in your life. I think back to the motorcycle accident, but there was a testimony of God's greatness there, of what he did to restore your health. And it was a hard season. But, you know, so many people see the miraculous. They step away from that moment, and then they forget about it. They never share the testimony. Would you share kind of just how the testimony becomes the foundation for how we move forward?
Well, I think a big deal is what Pastor said earlier, Pastor Rich, when he talked about the power in the gospel. And one of the things why I love about this story is that when the story is happening to you, you know, afterwards you tell the testimonies. Like, I got my little video of my accident and tell everybody. But you know what? When I had no short-term memory, when I was wearing diapers and drooling on myself, it was a real struggle to believe. And other people would come and see what a mess I was. And I'm sure it was a struggle for them. But just like in this story, there's this mixture of faith and unbelief. And look at the story is not, like you said, not about a powerful Rhoda or a powerful Peter or a powerful church that's doing all the praying. Everybody's kind of like surprised when, you know, that God showed up and God did something. And because the power's in the good news that we have access to God, even when we don't feel like it, that there is hope, even when it seems like there is no hope. I mean, Herod killed a lot of people. He was a wicked dude.
Yeah.
And so he was no doubt going to kill Peter. He killed James. That's at the start of the story. Let's not skip that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was Jesus' brother. So it's like Peter's probably in shock. He knows it's curtains for him. But no, you know what? The good news is that no situation is beyond God's reach. And even though we got this confusion of unbelief with our faith, that's always the story. It's not how we did everything perfect. The story is never, look at what I did, look at how much faith I had, and I did all the right confessions and right prayers, and the church did everything they were supposed to. The idea is, in spite of us and our doubts and our unbeliefs and our imperfection, the fact that we're in agreement, God shows up and does something to just shock us all, and here we are 1,000 years later still talking about it.
And I'll just add to that. That's such a good point, because you remember this. There was two schools sometimes that actually believed if you had enough faith, you shouldn't be in prison anyways.
Yep.
Why would God even allow you to go to prison, right? And then the other school,
faith in your faith.
Faith in your faith. And the other school would be like, well,
whatever will be.
God doesn't do miracles. He doesn't deliver. He doesn't do anything. You just suffer and you go on. And that's so not true. Either one are wrong. Both ways is that God said, you know, the Bible says, I'll never leave you or forsake you. Steps of a righteous man are ordered of God. So, you know, Peter was right where he was supposed to be. And when he was delivered, it was for a purpose.
Yeah.
It wasn't just because faith delivered him, like you so well put. God delivered, and they were like, no, it can't be. Must be a dream.
Ghost.
You know. And I think, you know, we once again, grace does not get lost and focus only on the gifts. Grace continues to look at who grace is Jesus. Jesus is the deliverer. He's the one that delivered him. You know, and we prayed to the Lord, and the Lord heard our prayers, and he answered our prayers, and he delivered that. So it's not about our ability, our giftings. It's about his loving grace. He showed grace.
That's so good. And even we know, it's not in Acts, but we know that Peter was crucified upside down at one point.
Yeah.
And so he
was asked to be.
Yeah, he asked, could he? Because they were going to do it. But it's like he had all these deliverances. But yeah, the time comes when it's time to move on. It's time to graduate or time for the next level. And that also is God's grace. And you can face it with courage. We don't have to be manipulated or controlled or driven by our fears or our doubts. We can just trust in the grace of God and, and the power of his gospel.
And I know as pastors, you guys deal with this all the time. So many believers, they're constantly trying to pray their way out of difficult situations.
Mm-hmm.
But what if that situation is the very situation they need in their lives to learn, develop, grow, to have a revelation of who Jesus is?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to back up for a moment. I think I'm going to read this one section with a little bit of a filter. It's not inherently in here, so I'm going to kind of put Mikeism on here. This girl comes back, and as she comes back to the room, excited about what she had personally experienced, the body of believers tried to shut her down. You're out of your mind, they said, verse 15. When she insisted, they decided it must be an angel. They not only dismissed her, but then said, well, we can explain that as something different. They had enough faith to believe that was an angel, but not enough faith that God would deliver Peter. And I think so often, God's doing great things, and we dismiss it or write it off when we don't experience it personally. I think of even in the context of churches throughout my life where God is doing a great work. And I think of new believers so often, so zealous and so filled with the Holy Spirit, and God is doing great things, and believers unteach them the encounter of God. And I'm curious, Pastor Rich, this is kind of where I was going through with the filter of that, the Mikeism, is how do we keep that encounter fresh so we have the faith to believe even when we don't experience it ourselves? How do we keep the body alive as a community of believers to say, you know what, God could do that. Not only could he do that, but he did do that. And not only did he do that, but it encourages our faith for today.
Whew, that's a good one. And I've been walking through this lately.
Yeah.
Because when you walk with the Lord, especially as spiritual leaders, you have to be careful, because you can judge things carnally, and you can judge it through human understanding. Examples, there are certain people, why didn't they believe her?
Yeah.
Was it because she was a woman? Was it
she had to keep insisting, it says. They just wouldn't believe her.
And there are people, right, that we look at and we value their opinion. There's other people we would doubt what they say to us, right? So I think when it comes to the spiritual things of God, I want to live in the present moment of where Jesus was.
Yeah.
So we talked about it this past weekend. I think in Matthew it says, Jesus said, greater things will you do, because I'm going to my Father in heaven. And I've heard stories of people that before they ever came to a church, read the Bible.
Yeah.
And when they came to church, they would come up to the pastor and say, hey, where's the stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he'd say, what stuff?
Yeah.
And he'd say, the stuff of where are the healings?
Yeah.
And where are the miracles?
Yeah.
And where are the signs and wonders? And I think, for me, that never relinquishing my belief because of what the circumstance is, what the experience has been, but to believe that God at any time can usher me into a present moment of kingdom miraculousness and the supernatural.
Yeah.
And I don't live there every moment. I don't experience it even probably every day, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I never want to rule it out.
That's so good.
Our spiritual principle, our practice this week is living with hope for divine justice. God puts in divinely through the writing of Scripture facts that you kind of go, okay, that seems interesting that you would record that, God, but hey, and John, I know it brought you amusement, but it's
I just like when bad guys get what they deserve.
So I love how Peter his eyes never wander from that, but that God has it all worked out. That what happens?
It always used to trip my mind and be like, what? Herod was struck down by God, eaten by worms, and then he died.
Yeah.
In that order. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's kind of freaky. That's like the original horror flick right there.
But just in that spiritual practice, I think one of the things that we have to take away is that we can trust God. That God's going to work out whatever issue, whatever struggle, whatever adversity we face. That God is in the midst of that. And as we kind of wrap up this conversation today, there's going to be somebody. I just have it impressed on my spirit that there's going to be somebody that's just going, there is an impossible right in front of me today.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at that impossible. Maybe it's in a relationship where they've been abused. Maybe it's in a situation where they just feel like they're taken advantage of. Whatever that is, their impossible situation. What would you tell them about depending on the miraculous works of God to work it out for his justice in their life? I'll start with, who wants to start?
Go with John.
John?
Well, obviously, the church was praying, and Peter was obeying. He was commanded, they were commanded to go and preach the gospel and make disciples. So he didn't let anything stop him from his mission.
Yeah.
And he kept getting up and showing up, but he also was teaching the people that he worked with to pray.
Yeah.
And if we're all looking to God, that's where our hope is. He's the source. He's the fount. He's the one. And I always talk about that he's God all by himself, and he's not taking applications. Every time you and I try to figure out or fix it, we will wear ourselves out. And even when God does show up, we won't even believe it. But because they just kept looking to God, God will break through and he'll make himself known. And that's where the miracles are, is at our greatest need and our greatest problem or emergency, whatever you want to call it. That's when we need to put super to the natural. That's when we need the extra to the ordinary, is when it's just beyond anything. That's when we should get excited.
Yeah.
And we tend to get discouraged. And I just keep reminding people, just think what a great story this is going to be, right?
Yeah.
And if we keep coming together and looking to God, what's he going to do?
Yeah, I love that. Pastor Rich?
Yeah, God responds to faith. That's what he responds to, and we know that. So one of the disciplines that I'm trying to live out, because at the cross where so much was provided for, the forgiveness of our sin, the healing of our sicknesses and diseases, the taking of our sorrows, Isaiah 53, 4 and 5. It is now in present tense. And so what I would say to people is, if it already has happened, live like it's already happened.
Possess it.
And I know that can be weird. Some people can get off on that, and I don't mean that we're denying. We're not. You have to admit that you need healing to be healed.
Yeah.
But I am saying, if by his stripes I have been healed, whatever you focus on increases. So instead of me focusing on the thing that I need the miracle in, I want to focus on the miracle worker.
Yeah.
That gives me more focus. I can energize off of that.
Yeah.
I can't energize off of my problem
Right.
and off of my difficulty, but
Yeah.
I can energize off of him
Yeah.
and focus on him. And then I think the other thing is, I really believe in a daily discipline of whatever it is that we're doing. We take medicine regularly when we need to. I believe we need to take spiritual things daily. Take communion daily.
Yeah.
Take it. Sin came in through the world by eating.
Yeah.
And by eating the blood and the flesh and the blood of Christ, by partaking of that, that's how we receive Isaiah 53, the work of the atonement. So I think it's good to do that, and not doing it because that act is what's going to heal me. Jesus is the healer.
Yeah.
But it's a discipline to, once again, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on the problem, or am I focusing on the solution to the problem?
Love that. Well, as we wrap up, I have a little bit of a different challenge for you today. You know, always like and subscribe. That's awesome. Do that. But why don't you leave us a message in the comments of what God has spoken to you through this time, whether it's through reading Acts 12 or whether it's through listening to this conversation. What did God highlight to you? We'd love to hear how God is speaking to you in your life. Also, do one more thing for me. Would you just share this out? Maybe post it on your Facebook page or on Twitter or X or whatever it may be called next. Whatever that is, just share it out. Or if you're talking to a neighbor that might just need a little touch of the Holy Spirit this week, share it out with them to give them the everlasting hope that comes through Christ. Hey, we love you. Thanks so much for tuning into this conversation this week, and we can't wait to see you again next week.
Hello? Test.
Epi's a little shorter, must be.
I'll just slouch. How's that?
You can just pull the mic up a little bit in the clip. It's pretty far
Hello?
down there.
Test. These are directions. I have to talk right into them. What? Students with the testimony, students with the cause. We're going to do the wise thing. We're going to follow God. Follow God!